Hey everyone, Thyworm here, talking about the new difficulty balances in Pagan Online. Emil, bringer of pain, according to Madhead, lived up to his name, so let's dive into it. As always, I'm trying to provide a bit of context here. Let's wind back the clock a week, envision patch 0.2, and look at the difficulty issues the game had at that time. I think they can be divided into three categories. 1. Overall difficulty in Hard and Master was too easy. 2. Difficulty settings were not rewarding enough. 3. People were one-shotting bosses. Those were the issues. And what did those issues actually mean? I think mostly it meant that the game wasn't challenging, especially for people with high-geared characters. Emil literally said it himself in the devlog.
Our statement would be that we want players to be able to have proper challenge while having the best possible gear in our game, so we do not want players to be able to one-shot or speed through the content.
Let's also take a moment to recognize that balancing a game like this must be one hell of a job, right? There's 8 characters that aren't balanced between them as of now, and then there's a very mixed player base with probably casual and more seasoned players. And then there's just a natural human tendency to like things to be easy. Pagan Online wants to be a challenging game as well, where you're supposed to die quite a bit. That might cause frustration. No, it will cause frustration, but it also brings something very valuable, something casual games simply don't have, and that's a sense of achievement, which is not to be underestimated. I've said this before as well, but I keep stressing it because that is really what can separate a game like Pagan from its counterparts. Alright, with this design philosophy in mind, let's see what has changed in patch 0.3 and how it has impacted the game. The most noticeable change is the increase in difficulty, pumping up the health and damage of monsters and also environmental objects. That last change has led to some pretty hilarious deaths, as you can see here. She killed me using the stones. Aside from some friendly fire, the consequences of the changes are pretty clear a few days after the patch. This game has suddenly become rather difficult. Let's look at the 3 pre-patch issues we identified and go through them one by one. The overall difficulty in Hard and Master was too easy. That's been fixed, you could argue. Or has it? I'm unable to attempt even the hard difficulty gauntlet on my 20k mind Lucian. When doing the trash mobs on the USUD mission, they feel now like bullet sponges really, while also being very dangerous. I could easily die in this section playing Lucian. Master difficulty in general for me is basically impossible on level 40 plus mission, once again on Lucian. Now, I'm not passing any judgment here, I'm just making some observations. If the intent was to make the game much harder up to the point where I really need sort of the absolute best gear on Lucian and a very good sense of how to play the character and maximize my damage in order to complete a master difficulty level 40 plus mission, then Emil succeeded. And this could very well be the intention. Master difficulty could be very well intended for absolute endgame players that have farmed for ages and still want a challenge. I'm personally fine with that, and I don't think a difficulty level like this should be achievable for everyone playing the game. There is, however, one big caveat which I think is a bit of an oversight from the developer's perspective, and those are the mandatory missions you need to do. They require you to complete a few missions on master difficulty, like cleansing waters, and right now there is absolutely no way you're going to complete those missions, unless you're Demir. While I generally enjoy the overall buff, I think the biggest side effect of these changes are an unintentional strain on new players that want to unlock Valeria, for example. Without help from someone really strong, these players are stuck in the current state of the game. Because normal high level missions aren't available to them because they haven't unlocked them yet, crafting isn't really a viable option either because that has been nerfed, and new players basically reach a point where they are stuck, usually around the 11k might area. That bottleneck somehow has to be resolved by the developers, which I'm sure they will. In the meantime guys, for those new players, just hop by on one of the streams Monday, Wednesday and Friday at 8 PM Central European time, and me or someone else watching will help you out. We got a great community, so don't worry, we will get you there. On to point number 2, difficulty settings were not rewarding enough. I still feel this way, actually. I still think there is not a lot of incentive to run anything above normal difficulty in terms of loot. because normal difficulty already drops quite a lot of stuff. But this is really subjective, granted. To me though, this is just a balancing act, right? I can do a normal mission at least 3 times faster than a hard mission. And the loot is not 3 times worse. So at the end of the day, I would prefer the somewhat more boring normal version of missions with still decent loot, rather than the hard versions which have slightly more loot but are also a pain in the ass on my main character, Lucian. And then I'm thinking, what would incentivize me to play a hard or master difficulty level 40 plus mission? I think specific rewards would. Not more of the same rewards I can get in normal difficulty, but different rewards. Better legendaries, for example, something like that. The loot table for normal could be different than the loot table for hard or master. Just a suggestion. For the record, I don't really consider this a real issue as of now. I'm still enjoying all sorts of difficulties, especially combined with co-op. It is quite a lot of fun. Last point. Point number 3. People were one-shotting bosses. Just take a look at this clip where my buddy plays Emil. It's master difficulty on a level 41 mission. He absolutely destroys Yusut in a single orb phase. So I think we can conclude that the issue still exists. And this Emil, by the way, only has 15k might, with a strong focus on physical damage. When I heard that people were one-shotting bosses in patch 0.2, I didn't really recognize any of that. I mainly played Lucian and I was never able to one-shot any boss. Definitely not endgame bosses like Usud or Forun. It took me quite a while actually to kill those guys. And now after playing patch 0.3 for a couple of days, I feel the issue is not so much that people are one-shotting bosses, because I don't think that many people are. I think that's fair. Based on the comments and my playtime, I would argue that the current difficulty is sort of fine. Maybe make hard a little bit more accessible, but apart from that I think they're fine. What seems to be more of an issue currently is the balance between heroes. If you want to beat a master difficulty mission, you need to play Emil. I started gearing my bear after witnessing the slaughter of Yusut by a Emil player before my very eyes, and after a day I also was one-shotting bosses. But here's the thing, this only happens on Emil, right? And maybe on Valeria once the crit chance bug has been fixed. But on some of the other characters I don't have the same experience. If you happen to play mainly one of those characters, like my Lucian, the game suddenly becomes extremely tough after the change. I think before we see more changes in overall difficulty balancing, the heroes should be more balanced perhaps. So it doesn't matter that much if you're playing Lucian or Emil. Right now, Emil is just way too good and one of the only viable options to clear endgame content. I experienced that myself over the last few days and the differences between Lucian and Emil are just very big. I think this balancing act of Pagan Online is going to continue for quite a while. Like I said at the start, balancing this game must be super tough. Overall speaking, the changes in patch 0.3 regarding difficulty are good. I think maybe a bit more attention should go to how feasible the game is for new players, but that's about it. Next steps, from my perspective, should be balancing the individual heroes, so we get a more even playing field. Let's be patient about this, guys, because while I understand some of the frustration, this is also a process with many variables and it's hard to get it right. Patch 0.3 is definitely a step in the right direction, but some more steps will be necessary as well. I'm curious to see how these new issues that patch 3 basically introduced are dealt with. Once there's more updates on this, you can expect another video on it. Hopefully I've provided a bit more context about the current state of the game regarding difficulty. And once again, if you're stuck, reach out and we can help you. Or play Emil, your choice. Subscribe to the channel because you want those juicy Pagan Online videos. Also, I started streaming, Pagan Online mostly, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 PM Central European Time. Find me on Twitter @Thyworm and thanks for watching. See you soon. Bye bye.